Okay, we're going to make a start. Just a bit before we get going, please note that this evening's meeting is not being live streamed, but is being recorded for update to the council's website later on. Would anyone present in the room please ensure that any mobile devices are either switched off or put onto airplane mode in order to reduce interference with the equipment within the room. Thank you. And if you're anything like me, I've left my phone and everything behind me at home by accident. But it's a bad night, bad day, everything. Okay, right, so we'll start off. Any apologies? I've got one off Councillor Barker, sorry. That's any more? No, okay. Any declarations of interest? Councillor Norcombe.
Thank you, Chair. Just to declare an interest in item 5 and the Cabinet Member for Public Health and Integrated Care Systems Safeguarding. It's non-pecuniary, but it's still an interest. Thank you.
Okay, any questions that come on question 5? Guess where they'll be going to? Minutes of previous meetings. Any objections? So I've definitely had a no from there. So have we got a seconder? We might as well do it properly. Okay. Done. Update from Cabinet. Now, Stephen's coming in a bit later on. I don't know if anybody else has got anything. No. So if he turns up, if we're still here, because we ain't got much on, we'll ask him again, see if he's got anything update. On to 5, Staffordshire Health and Care Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Any questions on that one? Okay. You know, jokingly, I said we'd be finished for 7:10. 6, Walleys Quarry, and that's going over to Nesta.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is the updated Walleys Quarry odour issues report presented to Cabinet in November, which covers the period in October. So if I'll take you through the report, principally sections 2 and 3 and 4. So section 2 deals with the complaints. I think as you can see in the table there on page 14 of your agenda pack, the complaints have remained relatively low. However, there has been some increases and there have been some short-term peaks for individual weeks. We've highlighted any occasions where there are 10 or more odour events on one particular day or complaints, and we've had one of those, which was on Wednesday the 25th of October, where we received 13 complaints on that day. In terms of section 3, during this time period, this was the time period following the Environment Agency's announcement about the incorrect reading of hydrogen sulfide measurements at the mobile monitoring facilities. So we actually instigated a number of officer visits to undertake odour assessments alongside the new MMF datas. They weren't necessarily undertaken at the same location, but around those same days. So you can see there during the beginning of October, we undertook quite a lot of assessments. And we undertook 54 odour assessments by officers during that period, and on 13 of those we did detect odour at the times when we were measuring. However, we do note that we weren't out 24/7, so it was a snapshot of the readings that we did identify during those visits. On the table, at the first table on page 16 of your report, you can see the MMF data. So during this period, the 3 MMFs are back up and running in relation to hydrogen sulfide, and the percentage of time that the hydrogen sulfide was recorded above the WHO annoyance levels ranged from 0% up to 13.7% at the end, from the beginning to the end of the month. Section 3.6 deals with the Environment Agency regulation, and you can see in terms of the second table there that's on page 16 and 17 that they've undertaken a number of visits and issued 3 car reports. One of those was in relation to a site inspection where they were found inadequacies in terms of engineering works and non-compliance with general permit conditions, and a CCS compliance score of 4 was issued to the operator. On the 19th of October, the EA also issued a Regulation 36 enforcement notice following an unannounced inspection, and that was again to install any missing clay capping to the flanks of the phases 1, 2, 3 and 4 over the landfill site. So that enforcement notice has been served, and they have until the 12th of December 23 to actually undertake and complete those works. Section 4 refers to the 2 appendices, Appendix 2 and Appendix 3. They're the KPIs that both the Borough Council and Walleys Quarry produce in terms of this report. So thank you, Chair. That's my update report, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah.
Adequate.
Alcohol. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome there's more Jerome data available here. My fear is that that the EA is going to take they're trying to recalculate the historical data, aren't they? And I believe they're having an independent observer to help calculate it, and they're going to release it maybe early new year. My fear is, of course, that they may well come back and say this data is too unreliable or it's too uncertain for us to actually make any use of it. So how far back and how extensive are our own Jerome recordings from the site? How long have we been recording it for? And how can we be certain our Jerome devices are indeed reliable and calculating it properly? Thank you.
Okay, so our Jerome devices are different types of equipment to what is used in the MMFs. So they are portable handheld devices. They're not UCAS accredited, so they don't work to the same level of precision as some of the MMFs. That said, they are calibrated, and they're calibrated before and after at the end of each use, and each occasion they're taken out, and then they're also sent back to the manufacturer for regular calibration. So we have calibration certificates for those, so we're quite certain that the results from those are as accurate as they can be in terms of the tolerances of the instrumentation. We have results of those going back to when we bought them, and I'm just trying to think in terms of the time. I think we've got 12 months plus worth of data. However, how we have used them has changed throughout the whole investigation period. So we've had them where we've taken them out on officers' visits, which is what we're doing at the moment. So we've used them as a backup. So if somebody can, detect something with their nose, you can have an equivalent H2S reading. That's how we use them to begin with. And then we obviously did some installation in people's homes. So at this moment in time, we are continuing with those that when we are doing visits, we're using them as a backup so that we can actually get a measurement alongside the officer verification and assessment of it using their own nose.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Residents in Silverdale are very concerned and disillusioned by the ongoing failure of regulators to hold Walleys Quarry Limited to account in relation to odour nuisance and related impact on air quality. As a Borough Ward Councillor, what reassurance can I give local residents that there will be no long-term effects to their health resulting from this failure? And what advice can I give, practical advice, in relation to dealing with short-term health symptoms?
Thank you, Chair. So in relation to that, the UK Health Security Agency have updated their health advice, which is in relation to their current health assessments that can not be quantified. It is because they're awaiting the rework of the data, if that is possible. So their current health advice is published on our website. So members of the public can go to that, and I can send you a link to that to advise and update. In relation to short-term advice, again, that has been, there's a link on our website to the County Council, which is the UK, and the UK HSA is given question and answers in relation to that. So while the smell is there, it is to close your windows. Obviously, when the smell disperses, to open your windows and ventilate as much as you possibly can in relation to those. I think in terms of health data and health impacts, obviously, depending on the rework of the historic data, then the UK HSA may be able to update their advice in relation to that.
Thank you, Nesta. Could you just repeat the body you referred to there?
The health advice has been provided by the UK Health Security Agency, often referred to as UK HSA.
Thank you, and I would be grateful if you could send that link. Thank you.
Councillor Richards. Oh, sorry, I thought, yeah, okay. We just make sure we put Councillor Richards on. Right. Okay. More questions? No? Okay. Anything more, Nesta, or is that it for... You're okay. Right. Councillor Sweeney, do you want to go back to any update on Cabinet?
I'm not beginning anything.
Okay. Right. Solves that one. Oh.
Are we able just to kind of swing back just to the health and care overview scrutiny updates?
Let's hear your question then, and we'll...
Just a questions around clarification. At the last scrutiny committee, it was mentioned about system pressures and about the full system winter plan to manage winter 22-23, and there were some issues really around workforce and I think and supply, and there's going to be undertaken a thorough review and lessons learned process, and that was going to inform this year's winter plan. So there was a request for the full winter plan to be brought to the committee before winter 2023-24. Just wondering, has that happened?
Not to my knowledge that we've had anything different. I was working at the last one, so I didn't go. Councillor Norcup, anything that was said that we could throw any light on that?
And just one more.
Right, what we're going to do, because last time I was late for work, never been late for work, we're going to have one question, one supplementary, and then we can keep things going. So your supplementary, if you like.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask if there was any kind of updates, because there's no updates on the from the Health and Care Overview Scrutiny Committee. I think they last met on the 7th. I think the meetings coincide with the our meetings today. So I'm just wondering whether there are any updates on that meeting.
Not as only what we've got at the moment, which of covering. Excuse me, bear with me a minute while I forget the page. It should tell us when they're covering from. Health and Nutrition Scrutiny is 27th of November. Might have been last month, won't it? Because they're meeting again. I think it is. Was it today? Yeah, yeah. I was in bed. So. No, you're at least a month behind at the moment because, like I say, they're meeting today. So theirs will be next. Go. I work at night. Well, my deputy also works. My deputy also works. But that I'm quite happy to give it up. More than happy to give it up. Yeah, well, most of the time I only work 2 nights a week. At the moment, I'm working a lot more because we're short-staffed. So, unfortunately, work pays for the bills. And I ain't retired. I did try it. I didn't like it. Right, so we will try and get you a update on the winter preparations. Right, so back on target. Number 7, Newcastle Town Centre Committee Safety and Partnership. Michelle?
Can I just introduce the chairman, please?
Oh, you can fire away.
Obviously, apologies from Jill. She's got another engagement tonight, which is why she's not here. Michelle Hopper, who's sitting on my left, I'm sure everybody knows, is a mobile multifunctional manager, and she's presenting the report. The overview is around low-level crime and antisocial behaviour, how this is being managed in the town centre with the mobile multifunction team and partners, and what initiatives are currently used and proposed. I think when you look at the report, I think it's full of things that the council and the police or other agencies are doing in our town centre. I think it's a really, really encouraging report. And it's a report, I sent it to the bid a couple of days ago so they could have a look at it, because obviously they're the town centre. And I think it's a perfect example of all the agencies in Newcastle coming together to improve our town centre. That's my part of it. Do you want to carry on then, Michelle?
Yes, thank you for that introduction and your kind words. Okay, so I'll run you through the report. The report can be found on page 31 of your pack. So a bit of background in regards to this. So the report is just identifying the work of the Community Safety Partnership that addresses a range of community safety related issues across the borough. Like many other towns and cities across the UK, Newcastle Town Centre experiences issues in regards to crime and antisocial behaviour, which can, we know, have a negative impact on the community's perceptions of the town. To address it, though, there are a number of initiatives that are listed in this report, which are jointly planned and delivered by the council, the police, and other community safety partners. The report itself focuses on initiatives which are in place or planned to tackle community safety and social behaviour in the town specifically, and there are other initiatives in progress to tackle other related elements such as serious crime, homelessness, and vulnerability, which are not covered in this report. The council itself has set up a new team, the Mobile Multifunction Team, which brings together a cohort of staff to deal with various elements of community safety, environmental enforcement, and neighbourhood issues across the borough. And the team has significant focus and presence in the town centre and works closely with the police and other partners to carry out prevention, enforcement, and clean-up operations. So just some issues. We are well aware that Newcastle is a vibrant market town with a bustling nighttime economy. The town centre itself, though, has been identified as a hotspot location for antisocial behaviour and precision policing. And that's in line with the Community Safety Strategic Needs Assessment, which was carried out by the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner. The issues in the town centre are not unique to the town, but are replicated in other town centres and cities across the UK. If I can draw your attention to section 3, you'll see a table which provides some data specifically around Newcastle Town Centre, and that's of November of 2023. So you'll be able to note that although there are minor increases in serious violence and theft from motor vehicle, there are notable decreases in all other areas, including crime and antisocial behaviour from 2022. It's worth to note in 3.2, this just draws your attention to the utilising community protection warnings and the use of community protection notices, which are utilised under the Crime and Antisocial Behaviour Act 2014. And these interventions are designed to target particular individuals who are engaging in ASB and have proved to be a successful tool in this regard. Work is continually ongoing in regards to this, and we work collectively in conjunction with town centre businesses that allow us to build evidence to enable further enforcement to be taken. Section 4 just draws your attention to the projects and initiatives in the town centre. Obviously, I'm trusting that a number of you have read this report, so I won't go through these individually, but I'm more than happy to take questions in regards to any further information you would require on the projects themselves. But on the whole, you'll be able to see that there is a breadth of work going on and being undertaken by the Community Safety Partnership to address crime and antisocial behaviour in the town centre. And a lot of this work is well received by businesses and members of the public who are utilising our town centres. On the whole, alongside other ongoing police and partner agency work, the initiatives that are listed in this document, we believe have resulted in the following outcomes. So a reduction in antisocial behaviour by 10%, a reduction in reported crime by 3%, an increase in engagement with the community and businesses, increase in CCTV cameras in and around the town centre, providing a vital tool in terms of collation of evidence for crime and antisocial behaviour, and on the whole, improved partnership working and coordination of intelligence and the resources to enable us to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour. A couple of major risks and mitigations just to be aware of in section 11 of the report. So without the Community Safety Partnership, there will be limited resource and capacity to deal with crime and antisocial behaviour. We would anticipate, therefore, a risk of an increase in crime and antisocial behaviour across the borough on the whole, but in the town centre in particular. And it's also just worth noting that a lack of funding could result in no delivery of some of the community safety projects that assist with the reducing of vulnerability and early intervention projects for low-level antisocial behaviour. But the Community Safety Partnership pools resources and enables us to target funding bids to be made for identified priority projects. And that is all. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Have we any questions? I'll go from the back. From the front to the back. So, Councillor Rees.
Yeah, just a quick question on the street medics. Obviously, it's the act as a triage to reduce the demand on A&E services. Do we have any data yet to show that that's had an impact?
Yes, the medics have, as part of the requirement of funding the medics, we've asked them to collate intelligence and data around every interaction they're having with the members of the public, what they're being treated for, what sort of triage service they've been offered. So we do have a collection of data which I have shared with the County Council and the NHS in order for us to try and obtain additional funding to prolong that service post December 2023.
Rupert.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to welcome the reporter. Really good statistics here, reduction in ASB, and I think it does show the benefit of community safety partnerships and of the protection orders. I actually want to really pass our thanks to those people who are running Safe Space. It's been very visible. I see they post on social media a lot about the safe spaces for women in the nighttime economy here, and the fact it's staffed by volunteers I think is amazing. So really, I just want to pass on my thanks on behalf of those volunteers.
Thank you very much. I will pass that on to the volunteers.
Sunoco.
You nearly got it, Chair. No, it's only been about, was it 9 years? Okay, just a comment really. We all know that initiatives like this are so welcome, but it takes a while for it to embed in the town and to send that message to those that want to disrupt and come into the town to cause trouble, that they're going to get a little bit of a harder time if they try it. So I really welcome this report. I would like to see that the CCTV implementation is brought to bear as soon as possible, really, in terms of bringing it up to speed in terms of its effectiveness. But the whole package from the professionals to the volunteers is to be commended, and I've been speaking to quite a few people recently that use the Newcastle in the dark hours, and they've been really given that sort of comfort that they feel assured that it's safer than it used to be. When some incidents do happen, that they're met with challenge, and by and large they're left to enjoy the nighttime economy without thinking of their own personal safety or their valuables left in the cars, etc. So I just want to pass that message on. Well done for everybody, and I really do hope that we can maintain this as it is going forward, and the recurrent funding should be promoted on the strength of this, because it's obviously having an effect. and it would be such a shame if this was ended in some respect in some parts to make it less effective. So thank you very much for that. Really, really good report. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah.
It's on. I was out on Saturday in Newcastle, a lads and dads night, as the saying goes, and the atmosphere was great. There was no nasty air. There's nothing. It was a good night out. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. You know, sometimes you go into areas and think, "Ooh, I don't like the feel of this." Nothing like that. Nothing like that in Newcastle at all. It was just a really pleasant, friendly place to go. I mean, I was only there till 11 o'clock. I don't know what's like 2 o'clock in the morning, but by 11 o'clock, it was a really good place to go out and have a drink and enjoy yourself. And no problems at all. Big jump.
Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else? No. Rest of you, anything to finish off with? No. Okay. Oh, yeah. Michelle, sorry. I'll go back to calling everybody Duck and Love. It was a lot easier. Right, number 8. Review of environment strategy and map to zero, net zero. And I can't call you Nesta, can I, Andrew?
No, thank you. Thank you, Chair. This report's obviously just on page 45 of your pack. Quite a big report and the appendices, but I'll take you through it. So effectively the report is to review the progress and plans towards the aims of the Council's Sustainable Environment Strategy and the linked initiatives, which include the Council's Nature Recovery Plans, Urban Tree Planting Strategy, UN Sustainable Development Goals and Climate Emergency Plans. And effectively, the report is part of our journey to move the council forward to achieve its net zero target for its own operations and estate by 2030. Just quick background, which you'll be familiar with. So the council adopted the Sustainable Environment Strategy back in December 2020, and it's a landmark document which sets out the council's commitment to a sustainable environment moving forward. It's an overarching strategy under which a range of other linked and related plans and initiatives sit. In early 2023, in order to move this forward, we commissioned expertise in the development of a costed, what we call roadmap to net zero, and that's for the council's own operations and estate. It's effectively looking in detail at the operational buildings, which have all had in-depth surveys and analysis undertaken over the summer, looking at the fabric of the buildings, heating, lighting, ventilation infrastructure, and so on, and energy consumption. In addition, the council's vehicle fleet has been subject to an in-depth analysis as well, which includes the 10-year fleet replacement programme, and obviously the vehicles in terms of what we currently do, how they're running, what they run on, all of those things. So the development of the roadmap effectively provides a strategic overview of the key priority areas for action and starts to set milestones for the council to reach net zero by 2030. The roadmap itself is not a how or who or the actions needed to achieve the milestones, and it's important to stress this. It's a strategic framework. And effectively, if you look at the bottom of paragraph section 1.6, it effectively shows that between 2022 and 23, it's effectively our get going stage where we understand what needs to be done and when to accelerate those actions. So that's the piece of work we've had done over the summer. From now, we need to be on our way with the expectation that low carbon is the norm in terms of what we do. And we need to be, by 2027, doing really well and on the journey to net zero. And then between 2028 and 2030, effectively looking to achieve our goal. And that will be choosing low or zero carbon has become the norm. And it's culturally embedded and self-regulating within the authority. This roadmap will effectively now form the basis for a revised sustainable action plan for the council to achieve its net zero target for all the operational vehicles and fleet. So in terms of progress to date, the existing sustainable environment strategy is being delivered through an action plan, and that last update was brought to this committee just over about 18 months ago. And it covered an initial 5-year period, which is now coming to an end. There are a number of linked plans and initiatives which have been agreed and adopted by the council, as I mentioned before. So the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the Climate Emergency Declaration, the Nature Recovery Declaration, and the Urban Tree Planting Strategy. The Commission roadmap has identified areas where the Council now needs to take action in reducing its own emissions to net zero, and the report focuses therefore on the 2 largest contributors to carbon emissions, which is our buildings, heating and lighting in the main, and our operational vehicle fleet as mentioned. And these effectively fall into what's known as Scope 1 and 2 of our responsibilities under the Climate Act 2008. The SEA action plan has been updated, and that is in your report pack at Appendix 1, and there's some really good positive moves forward on that. It's also worth highlighting the positive actions that have been commissioned and completed as part of that plan. So we've introduced the use of what we call hydro-treated vegetable oil, or HVO fuel, as a clean alternative to diesel for our heavy goods vehicle fleet. And that's secured in reducing carbon emissions for those vehicles by 90% during the first 6 months of 2023. We've planted just under 15,000 trees in the first 4 phases of our urban tree planting strategy on over 21 sites. We've provided sustainability training to all employees and members of the council, and we're now looking to embed carbon literacy training for this committee, cabinet and senior managers moving forward. And we've reduced the council's own carbon emissions by effectively 43% since 2019, when the original climate emergency was declared. So in terms of what's proposed, next, as I say, work is now ongoing in terms of taking those highlighted areas in the roadmap work and developing those into a new action plan, which will form the next stage of our sustainable environment strategy moving forward for the next few years. So in Appendix 2, you will see the operational buildings heat decarbonisation, and it's effectively focused around reducing energy, mainly electricity, but in particular gas consumption. And in order to do that, we are looking at fabric upgrades in terms of insulation, double glazing and the like, heating, so moving away from gas powered boilers to things like air source heat pumps, lighting upgrades to from incandescent to LEDs, and then also looking at building energy management systems. So this is our highly intelligent systems. This building has it in terms of how energy is effectively managed. And then obviously the big one as well is behavioural change, and that's something that we can all do. And effectively we need to do that in our built estate to help us reach the 2030 net zero target. In terms of the vehicle fleet, again, that's detailed in Appendix 3 of the report. And again, that's to take the transition of all the council vehicles, both light and heavy commercial vehicles and assets such as tractors and mowers, and move away from fossil fueled vehicles to zero emission vehicles, preferably by 2030. The fleet should be all transitioned to electric vehicles unless there's an opportunity to use other better renewable technology such as hydrogen, which is, to be honest, in its infancy at the moment, but by 2030 might be more of a viable option. And again, we have a responsibility to operate and maintain non-transitioned and transition vehicles in the council's fleet to ensure long life and cost effectiveness. We need to look at the increase in the charging infrastructure to accommodate that at the depot, and we also need to optimise fleet utilisation by rationalising the fleet, so making sure that we're not running more vehicles than we absolutely have to, and that's through productivity surveying. And then effectively to use this report to drive net zero initiatives within the wider borough to decarbonise all transportation by 2050, which is our goal for there. We need to look at biodiversity and nature recovery, so that's to continue to expand the urban tree planting strategy to drive carbon capture and offset emissions that are left over from any technological upgrades that we undertake. And we need to include biodiversity net gain in all new developments as the council undertakes to ensure net gain of biodiversity in the areas we develop. Then there's a section on governance and planning. So again, to implement the dynamics in the planning framework, and again, to embed the sustainable environment strategy and decarbonisation plan for site and transport decarbonisation. Moving on, we need to take account of the recommendations of the roadmap and now review the actions, as I say, within the SES and provide a new plan moving forward, which we intend to take to Cabinet around about April next year, which is fast approaching. So in terms of reasons, obviously the Sustainable Environment Strategy sets out the Council's ambition to be an exemplar local authority in both caring for and enhancing the environment, adapting to and mitigating the effects of climate change means and changing the way we do things over the longer term for the benefit of the borough. And that's to evolve the Council's Sustainable Environment Strategy into effectively a living document with linked plans and initiatives, in particular to focus on our journey to a carbon net zero base. We have obviously various legal and statutory implications effectively under the Climate Act 2008. I won't go into those in detail, as I say, they're there for you to read in the report. In terms of financial and resource implications, there are no financial resource implications necessarily from the report that went to Cabinet. However, it's now recognised that in order to reach our sort of net zero goal, there needs to be an action plan, and that action plan requires things to be done, and there comes a cost with that. So the roadmap has identified capital expenditure of £7.4 million up to 2030 to decarbonise the council's operational buildings. Costs for replacing the council's fleet to net zero ultra low emission vehicles is estimated at just under £11 million. However, these were already built into the council's existing rolling 10-year fleet replacement programme. We need to recognise that we need to make bold decisions where there's good business case to deliver the right outcomes, and for our residents and businesses to consider both financial and environmental returns of that investment. To make further progress on the agenda, the council's current budget includes the provision of £100,000 within the Borough Growth Fund to enable tree planting within the urban green spaces, and again, the preparation of the plans moving forward. External funding, which does exist, will continue to play an important part in allowing projects to come forward, and we're keeping a very close eye on that. And the work detailed earlier in this report, we were successful just over 12 months, about 18 months ago, in obtaining community renewal funding, which allowed us to do some of the work around decarbonisation. In terms of risks, there are overarching risks in terms of this this agenda, and again those are set out in section 9. So in terms of what went to Cabinet, it is a key decision, and it affects all wards within the borough, and again is included in the council's forward plan for that reason. Again, there's various background reports that have been undertaken, many of which have come to this committee in the past. That's a quick run through of what is quite a complex area for us, probably one of the most important areas for the council to take forward over the next few years, but happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Might as well start from the front and work back again. So, Councillor Richards.
I welcome any strategy that aspires to reduce climate change and leads us to be a zero carbon council. Just wanted to ask about our community centres, because they're not included in this strategy, and I know that they're managed by community organisations, but they are still owned by our council. And as a direct, of a CIC who manages Bradwell Lodge, I just wanted to know why they weren't included, or is that separate? Is that going to be included at some point?
It's a really good question, actually. Yes, it is separate in terms of the council's net zero goal for its own operations. This report focuses purely on the council's operations, and therefore the buildings and fleet required for us to carry out our statutory services. The community centres have actually been assessed. So the CRF, the community funding that we got from government, as I say, about 18 months ago, the majority of the community centres were surveyed in the same way as the buildings have been done here, and Bradwell Lodge was one of those. That report should have been given to the committee for them to consider, but it's something certainly the council, it will be up to the people that lease them or whatever, but there's probably work for us to do as an authority in supporting those initiatives going forward, if that helps.
Has that been shared with all of the community centres?
It should have been, yes. If it hasn't,
I will ask.
Please ask and come back to me. I will.
I have. There was some work that was proposed.
Yes.
Which I know about, but I wasn't aware that was part of the climate change agenda, so that wasn't made clear. So I will find more information out about that.
If you need anything back from us, just come back to us. As I say, Bradwell Lodge, I know was one that was done. It's that one is slightly complicated because of its listed status.
It's half listed, half not, isn't it?
Yes, so it's a little bit more complex, that one, but it has been done. So there is a base there to start with.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask because it's not there.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I was interested to see that one of the aims of the strategy is minimising waste and increasing recycling, and I'm a bit concerned if minimising waste includes removing bins at a street level. We've had some issues in Silverdale with the council reporting that residents are putting domestic waste in street litter / dog waste bins. This is dealt with not by dealing with the individuals concerned, but putting a sticker on the bin saying that the community will lose that bin if the antisocial behaviour continues. I am really concerned about this, because if that's officially council policy, we could end up with no bins at all in the ward. I'd like to know whether that is the policy and what resources can be used to actually deal with the individuals who perpetrate this antisocial behaviour, rather than condemning all those who play by the rules and pay their council tax from losing a facility.
Okay, thank you, Chair. not necessarily connected with the report, but there is no policy in terms of removing litter bins for that reason. We do unfortunately get abuse from time to time. It's not common, to be fair. I'm only aware of possibly a few every year. The fact of the matter is that there is more than adequate provision for people to dispose of both domestic and trade waste, both with the council's curbside operations and indeed if they use the council's trade waste service or any other private sector service, so that shouldn't be an issue. Obviously, over the last 12 months, we've been setting up the MMF team, which Michelle effectively manages now. So any issues like that, we are now sort of liaising with Michelle's team. Again, if there's evidence that is found within that bin that has been abused, Street Scene obviously gather that information, same as any sort of fly tipping as well, pass that on to Michelle's team, and Michelle's team will take any necessary action. But there does need to be evidence in there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. Very detailed. It's great to see the progress that's been made already and all the ideas and strategies that could be put forward in future. My question's about the carbon offsetting. When you're developing a tree planting strategy, do you calculate the offset based on how many trees are planted or based on how many trees we expect to reach maturity? Because, of course, there's always a percentage that will die off during the growing.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Yes, really good question. It's effectively calculated on the maturity, and again, there's some little bit of conflict about certain tree species reach maturity faster than others, or start sequestrating carbon earlier than others. We're working at the moment on a 25% loss rate, which is fairly industry standard in terms of putting what are called the small whips in. So we expect, at worst case, to lose up to 25%, depending again upon weather conditions and the like. Of the ones that we've been putting in over the last few years, we've probably lost, I think, we think about 10%. However, those are replaced, and we're looking at different mitigation measures in terms of trying to protect as many as we can. But it is normal for young saplings and the like to lose, as I say, between sort of 10 and 25% of those. What will happen in the next few days is we've got this document here, which will be Councillor Hutchinson will be emailing out to all members. There's quite a lot of detail in there about the question you just asked. It's a bit of a moving feast at the moment, but effectively there's in the back pages that there's quite a lot of detail about how much carbon sequestration that trees of different species and the like take up. So it's a really important issue, and again, the whole idea of this is that it effectively becomes a management plan that will be built into the sustainable environment strategy moving forward.
And that's good to hear. Thank you.
Else? Okay. Andrew, do you want to say anything to finish off, or you happy there?
I suppose the only other thing really is, as I say, the plan is to bring back to Cabinet in sort of April next year is the new sustainable environment strategy, which, as I say, will be more of a living document than we've probably had before. I guess my question to this committee is whether there's anything else around this subject you as a committee would wish to look at whilst that sort of work is ongoing. So we're open to any suggestions.
Councillor Norcroft.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just wish to ask a question about the risk in terms of adopting a certain technology for it only to become obsolete further down the line. And I just want to know really how much risk strategy planning goes into, for example, you've already mentioned it tonight, the possibility of hydrogen in its early development taking over from electric. So my question is, do we go into eggs in all one basket with electric, or do we wait to see if the market brings us hydrogen first?
Through you, Chair, another really poignant question. So effectively, where we're at, so small vehicles, vans, pickups that are much bigger than cars, electric is definitely the way forward. Once you get into heavy goods vehicles, it becomes slightly different. We could go all electric with refuse collection vehicles and road sweepers now. Indeed, we're just about to go out to procurement for 17 refuse vehicles. However, the cost of them is double that of diesel. They don't go as far. They wear brakes and tyres out far faster because they're heavier. Their productivity is lower, so we'll need more of them. So there's an awful lot of questions. So it's a really poignant point. So our approach at the moment is to continue with HVO fuel with them, because that does at least drop the carbon emissions, not the tailpipe emissions, I hasten to add, but the emissions or the carbon out that's connected with that vehicle's fuel by 90%. So it's quite effective, but I don't see that as a long-term solution either. So the long-term solution has to be zero emission vehicle. I personally think for heavy goods vehicles, hydrogen probably is the future, but it is too much in its early days. And the problem is with the vehicles that we buy, they're fairly niche, and therefore there's not huge amounts made every year. It's not like, buying a Ford Focus or something like that, or indeed, a truck that's ploughing up and down the motorways every day. And it's the heavy goods vehicles that are ploughing up and down the motorways every day that will lead that technological change. Now, the issue there is that they've got until 2040 before they can't manufacture vehicles with combustion engines in terms of heavy goods vehicles. So it's slightly different than cars that we're sort of all familiar with. So it's at what pace that technology moves forward. But I think it will. As I say, I can't envisage for 1 minute that an articulated heavy goods vehicle that, as I say, ploughing up and down the motorway doing thousands of miles a week, an electric solution for that just isn't going to be feasible at all. So they're going to have to find something else, and hopefully we'll be able to make use of that on the back of it. I think at the moment there's probably 2 hydrogen powered refuse collection vehicles operational in the country, and they're in their very early stages and quite a lot of teething problems from what I can gather, but you've got to start somewhere. So as I say, my personal hope is that that's the way it will move forward. If not, then electric is the backdrop, but as I say, that comes with other potential risks as well. But again, technology and batteries and things like that will no doubt continue to move forward. So yeah, hopefully that's answered your question.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that response. Yeah, and the counter argument, isn't it, that the actual battery is actually causing more problems making those than there is actually the carbon offsetting. I particularly agree with you in terms of the weight differential, the risks of for traffic going over bridges, etc., and carving up the roads because of the weight. Even my own sort of driveway, I can see that it's starting to fail now just by the weight of my car, and it's not even a battery one. So that has to be taken into account. But it will be interesting to see where it goes in terms of possible hybrid engines rather than the total hydrogen one that we've seen with the announcement from JCB. and they're contract and licensed to run those in the UK. So it's exciting times ahead, and it's that point of where you actually, do we go now? It's the timing, isn't it? And I guess that's going to be the most critical part.
That absolutely is going to be the critical part for us. And as I say, at the moment, the cost differential is absolutely huge. There is actually a couple of companies now that have set up that are refurbishing refuse collection vehicles. So say taking, you know, out the vehicles we're just about to replace at 7 years old, they're taking those, effectively stripping everything off them, taking the engine out, putting an electric motor and batteries in because the chassis are okay, and then putting a new body on and so forth. But they're still more expensive than buying a brand new diesel. Not too much more, but still more expensive. And that still comes with, you know, risk of actually, well, it's still a 7 or 8 year old chassis, and okay, everything in theory has been replaced on it, but is it really up to the same as a new one? So it's, again, we'll know in the next few years as people do dip the toe in the water and start to buy these things in terms of seeing how reliable or not they are. But it's quite a complex area, and as I say, it's one that we just need to keep a real close eye on.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Chair.
Anyone else? No. Andrew, you said if we've got any other suggestions other than what's coming on, are we looking at anything different other than just trees? I will pronounce Helgi because that's 400 times better. Bamboo, which is up to 5 times better and grows a lot quicker, and is actually a good crop if you're a commercial. I'll let you answer that.
No, again, it's a good question. Yes, I think we're open to looking at anything. I mean, part of the strategy is about wildflower meadows and things, because, you know, they are equally as good, if not better, in certain areas. So it isn't necessarily all around tree planting. I think, you know, there are other things that we will need to consider. The bit that we don't know yet, and this is the work that we need to do over the next year or so, is we will get to the point where we do need to offset. So we will not achieve net zero, and I use the word net, just by decarbonising and trying to find alternatives. There will come a point where we can't economically go any further. So offsetting there then becomes our next stage that we have to look at. So we need to be very knowledgeable up front about that, in terms of what are the various things that we can do in terms of trying to get the maximum amount of offsetting out of whatever we do in terms of our sort of open spaces and the like. So certainly we'd be quite happy to look at alternatives to or other things that supplement you know, the urban tree planting strategy and meadows that we're already planning to do.
Anybody else got anything? No. Any final words, Andrew?
Thank you, Chair.
No.
Thank you for your time.
Right. Work programme. Well, first off, in January, we've definitely got Biodiversity Management Operation Report. Good job it's written down there. If you have a look on what we've previously done, is there anything that you want to go back on to update, or have you got anything different that you'd like to see coming forward? Right, sorry, I should look up. We'll go from the back and work his way forwards. Rupert first, then Councillor Brown, and Councillor Rees.
Thank you, Chair. First, I think that should say 26th of February 2024 on the report. It says 2023 again. I assume that date is correct, just the wrong year. I know at the last meeting there were a few things raised that to go on the future work programme. I think one was around NHS dentistry. We asked if there could be a report given on that. I think there was also a request for a kind of report about obesity if I'm right. I remember that being mentioned at the last work programme discussion in the last meeting. So if it's possible to add those two things onto future wish list for work programme.
Okay. That was you two. I'll get him sit with you and you do it together. Councillor Brown.
Yes, Councillor Jones had raised dental, NHS dentistry, didn't he? And Councillor colleague here had mentioned obesity. So they were the things that were on my mind too.
Anything new?
No, NHS dentistry.
Yeah, I didn't realise until the other day, going on to work, how much private ambulances are used by the NHS. I'd never even thought that they were, but yeah. Yeah, I was quite shocked that we don't use them as much as some of the other areas, but yeah, I was quite shocked that we use private. Right. So we've got NHS dentistry, we've got that big long thing again, biodiversity management. What else have we got? Have we got anything? Does anybody remember what Councillor Tagg said should be coming to our group on full council the other night?
It was the tree.
It was the trees, right? Okay, that's okay. So, February the fire chief yet to see whether or not that 3-man operation was working yet. So we.
Councillor Wilkes.
Yeah, we could do that for the next one. Is there any long-term?
The obesity question, it was about youth activity in the leisure centres. That's what that was about. Yeah. Okay.
Just a question and an update on the planned items. Are we there yet, or? Yeah. Yeah, just about the final business case on the A53 bus gate scheme, because this has been rolling on for an age now. It's gone on too long, really, without any clear resolution. Are we kind of any nearer to that kind of business case?
As far as I'm concerned, and you better put me right, we're still waiting for the report because it's just not happening. It's not us not doing anything. It's further up the line that just don't seem to be doing anything at the moment. And with the new road and the various offsets, we're hoping that it's not going to be needed.
I think obviously, unfortunately, Nesta's probably the one to answer properly, and unfortunately she's left. But I believe it's back with the minister at the moment. So I'm guessing we are. I don't honestly, unfortunately, don't know where we're at with that. But something needs to come back from them in order for us to then take that forward. But Chair, you're right. I think one of the issues is that we are moving towards natural compliance anyway, and I suppose it's just when the timing all fits.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, I can't be more specific.
No, sorry, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I've just remembered another one that I wanted to bring up. Could we have an update on tennis provision in terms of resurfacing of courts that are single or courts where there's just 2 courts rather than the larger areas like the Westlands, please?
Same, or they haven't pinched your saying again, have they? Do you want allotments on? Because I know you were keen on them. Yeah, get allotments on. You won't all be on January, otherwise we'll be bringing us beds. We'll spread it over the year. Councillor Richards, did you want? They've pinched it again, have they?
No, I was just going to say that a concern about the bus gate in Basford, because obviously they have actually implemented one in Shelton, which I got caught by on the first day, which was unfortunate. So they have implemented one, and they're looking to implement further around that area. So, you know, we do need to be able to have that debate, particularly as it impacts
until it comes back. We
Port Hill Bank, and it's in my constituency. So.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Rupert.
Thank you, and just ensure Walleys Quarry's update remains on every meeting on the agenda. I think it's going to be big news in the new year.
Anything else? Because we'll spread these over the year, and of course, if there's a gap anywhere, we can have something come up. We don't want it a full year, and then if anything crops up that you want to bring in, we haven't got space for. So we can work on that, I think, can't we? Yes, definitely can work on that. Right. So we'll leave that as that. Nobody, officers, have got anything that they want to add on anything? No. Okay. Public? No. Any urgent business? Who's going by the first round? Yeah. Okay. Next meeting, which is January, I take it. February. Is it on somewhere? Oh, right. Okay then. Oh, right. You should look on my notes, shouldn't I? Yeah, 23. Yeah, so 25th of February. So I'll call the meeting closed and have a safe journey. Oh, before we go, I know it was said in full council, but seeing if it is part of our leisuring thing, written in blue, we did well. Congratulations to all those who actually took part and actually did something. I got roped into doing stuff. So yeah, well worth it. Let's keep it up and let's see if we can't get it again next year. Very doubtful if we'd have a trip. Can't be an hat trick. 25th, I think it says. Oh, 26, sorry. My eyesight. Right. If anybody wants to be a substitute for me when I am working, let me know. I don't mind. I've always ended up with extra substitutes because I've always worked. I intend to work until I drop.